people would corner me at cocktail parties, and they would say, tell me, what is the secret of Karsh? And I'd say, the secret is not of, the secret is in. Because it was his own quality that made people love him and trust him. And this was quite extraordinary because, you know, he did not grow up in an apple pie, pure, beautiful American surroundings. He was a child of the Armenian massacres in the early 1900s. He came to Canada as an immigrant boy, speaking no English, just French and a bit of Turkish and a little Arabic and probably no Armenian because he was not allowed to speak it. And he came armed, as he said, very often with good manners. And extraordinarily, although he became an international figure, and with a background like that, one would expect him to lie on the analyst's couch and bemoan his terrible childhood. He didn't, because his nature was basically optimistic. He had an abiding faith in people, and it was this optimism, this basic acceptance of people, and this great feeling that here is somebody wonderful in front of me, whether they were the Pope or somebody just a nice person who came to be photographed, that really established an enormously close relationship immediately. So that the photographic session became a collaboration rather than one person sitting there and smiling a phony smile. And very, very often, as we left somebody's home who was maybe a little notorious, maybe a little in page 6 somewhere, and the paparazzi were lined up, Yousuf would never, never, never betray that trust. And people knew this, of course, after a while, and his own manner put them at ease. There came a time when he was more famous than the people he photographed, and then he was the one who had to spend a half hour just bringing them to the point where it was an equal distribution of friendship. After he died, I got many, many phone calls from people I didn't know. I'd never heard of them. This person said, I was 15 years old 30 years ago, and I became besotted with photography, besotted. And I told my mother I was getting a camera and I was going off and shooting photographs around the world, and I was quitting high school. So she went ballistic and she said, you can't do this, this is insane. One day we're in the American Airlines lounge. At that time they had real lounges, real planes, real food, you know, real everything. And there was your husband reading his newspaper, just quite oblivious. And the mother said, there he is, go over, you know, there's your idol, you know, go over and say hello. And the child was terrified, of course he didn't. So she went over and plunked herself in front of him and hands on hips said, my son wants to quit school and it's all your fault, and what are you going to do about it? Naturally, he called the young man over and he was talking to him, and the stewardess called his flight. And he said to the stewardess, my dear, please, he said, my young colleague and I are having serious discussions, so please put me on the next flight. And the caller said to me, I couldn't spell cat, but he said, I knew what colleague meant. And he said, wow, he said, he thought of me in the same way. You know, I was his equal. I said, yes, I said he would do this. What did he tell you? You're 15 years old. You have a camera and you have eyes, but so far you don't see anything. And he said, that's all right. He said, because you're 15 and you're not expected to. But if you quit school, you will always be 15, and your eyes will always be 15, and you will see as if you're 15, and you will not grow. So he said, go to school and go to college if you can, and study art and music and philosophy and poetry and history, and continue to take photographs. Then maybe you'll take a photograph that's worth something. But it doesn't matter, because you will be a well-rounded, very secure human being who knows who you are. That really, in the long run, will be what matters. Many people say, oh, Mrs. Karsh, what a glamorous life you led. And yes, it was glamorous, but behind glamour, as you know, is hard work, meticulous preparation, and a lot of heartache and participation and glorious moments. And that's how it went for 40 years. I was privileged to look into the lives of the 20th century through Mr. Karsh. And these were lives that were not part of a press release. They were not part of what someone told me I should think about them. This was the reality of these people. And this was what was so absolutely extraordinary. With many of them, we formed friendships which abide today. That has been one of the great legacies, the friendships that we made.